What if you could help others to find the power to heal themselves? Physically, emotionally, and spiritually.
When I started teaching my classes, it was in 2002, and I was just doing the past life regressions and contacting the subconscious part. But then as the time went on and we found how powerful this was and what we could do with it, a lot of the students began saying, you know, advanced past life regression doesn't really tell what it's all about. This is so much more than that. We think you should change the name. So it was a few years ago we decided to change the name to Quantum Healing Hypnosis Technique. And this is the healing technique that we've now been teaching it, well, since 2002, that's 12 years.
What if you could time travel with them? Visit mythical places or angelic realms, other worlds, other galaxies. Help others to speak to their higher selves. You can. Dolores has taught thousands of people from across the world how to use QHHT, and now you can learn her method by going directly to dolorescannon.com. And don't forget to mention the discount code MORETALKS.
The author of the sensational international bestseller and the most compelling non-fiction publication of all time is back in London for the first time in 25 years to celebrate Chariots of the Gods' 50th anniversary. Erich von Däniken Legacy Night. In this 2-hour special, you are invited to share with Erich his most influential discoveries and revelations. Learn about his incredible life journey as an author and researcher. Meet the team behind the highly anticipated Chariots of the Gods 360-degree entertainment franchise. Erich von Däniken Legacy Night, live streamed from the Princess Anne Theatre, BAFTA 195, Piccadilly, London, October 15th, 2016.
Established over 100 years ago, Watkins Books is one of the world's oldest and leading independent bookshops specializing in esoterica. We have the widest selection of esoteric books in the UK, and our friendly and knowledgeable staff are here to assist you in a unique ambience of our shop. So come and visit us in the heart of London as we're open every day.
The comments and views expressed on The More Show are those of the people that make them and do not necessarily reflect the view of Kevin Moore, The More Show, or this radio station and its affiliate or sponsors. This show is for entertainment purposes only.
Broadcasting from the UK and across the world online. You're now watching the UK's only alternative late night talk show, and I'm your host, Kevin Moore. For the next hour, I'll be covering subjects that will open up your mind and provide you with information you may have never heard before. On today's show, I'm joined with Ancient Aliens researcher Marshall Klarfeld, whose research is showing that human beings were genetically engineered by an alien race called the Anunnaki over 250,000 years ago. Now, his research has uncovered what could be a defining moment in archaeology. He believes the information in The Anunnaki Were Here may rank among the top 10 most important archaeological finds of the 21st century. Now, he joins me today to discuss his new book, Mysteries of Alien Technology. Marshall Klarfeld, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Kevin. Good to be back with you again.
It's great to have you back on again. We will link your previous interview just below the video right now, so that if people want to see the previous video, you can. I can't quite remember what we spoke about in the last interview, because obviously that was a few years ago now. I think it was Well, actually, I don't remember when it was. It was when I was based in Cardiff that you came on last.
Yes, it was. We were talking about the Anunnaki mainly.
I think so. I think so. Now, it's not a subject that I cover always, and I think it's, I'd like to sort of start this for a beginner as well in the subjects, and then we'll get into some of the deeper stuff as well. I think, really, would you class this as your third career now?
Yes, absolutely. I'm a super senior.
How long have you been doing it for?
I've been doing this for about 20 years.
Right.
But I had a 50-year career before that and another 20-year career before that, so you can add that up.
Yeah, yeah. And what was the previous incarnation of Marshall Klarfeld?
Originally, I had a 30-year career in industry as a mechanical engineer working for a company in Berkeley, California called Upright Inc. And then I had a 20-year real estate career in San Francisco. And then I got into this UFOlogy, etc.
Absolutely. And do you think your background suits you for the work that you've done? Do you think it's helped you in the engineering side especially?
It helped me enormously, Kevin, because my mechanical engineering mind, I have a very curious mind, and I like to take things apart and find out why they're there, how they work, and who built it. And that's led me into a field that's produced a fourth book. I don't know if you know about my fourth book yet.
I don't. Well, I've got the most recent book. I've got Mysteries of Alien Technology.
Yeah, you got that.
I got that. I've been reading that, and I've got a lot of notes from that as well. This book was released. Was it in 2014?
Yes.
Right. Okay. And this is, I mean, I would say this, from what I've read, it's quite a different book from all the rest in one sense. But just sticking on the lines here right now for a novice. So you were quite influenced by Stitchin, Zachariah Stitchin. You got to meet Zachariah.
I treated him as my teacher, Kevin. In other words, I've had 3 great teachers in my life. He's the third. And we had a 10-year student-teacher relationship. And finally, since he's no longer with us, I've kind of picked up the torch, and I'm declaring myself as sort of a disciple of his and trying to keep his information alive in the public mind. It's very important information.
Yeah, you know what? I almost had the chance to interview Zachariah. I actually got a letter back from him, and because I took my time from when that letter came back to actually making contact again with him, it was in between this very short period that he became ill and then he passed away. And it was one of my biggest regrets that I never just pushed it after he sent me a letter back to say, look, just do the interview now. I just thought we had more time with him.
Well, that's too bad.
Yeah.
I cherish the time I had with him, and it's helped me tremendously because I've gone beyond, I've extended his theory in that fourth book. And I think that some of the things that I've discovered, he would have been delighted to join me in that.
Absolutely. Now, did you initially try to dispute Stitchin's work in your book?
No. I wrote the first book, Adam the Missing Link, as a research project, seeing if his theory was valid. At first I thought maybe it wasn't valid, but the deeper I got into it, Kevin, the more I came to realize that he was spot on. His stuff was really answering most of the questions that I had and satisfied me in my research to continue on to find out more and more about this space age civilization. He called them the Anunnaki. He said that's what the Sumerians called them. And I took his word at faith. In fact, there were some times we had conversations where I tried to push him beyond where he had gone and he wouldn't go.
Yes.
For instance, I asked him if he thought some of the stories that the Anunnaki had written for us were spin. They were trying to justify some of the things they did. I said, do you think the mutiny in the mines as an excuse to create humanity was a spin story? And he said, Marshall, the record speaks for itself.
Yeah.
He wouldn't go beyond. I was going beyond, Kevin, and he wouldn't go.
Now, some people say, what would qualify him to, as a ancient history scholar, in a sense, to be able to decipher the information that he has, and then how would that equate to yourself as well?
Well, you see, people think that you have to have a whole string of degrees to be an expert in anything, and that's not true. The best example is Einstein. He was a clerk in a patent office when he discovered E = mc squared. So I don't go along with the idea to be a great scholar, to be a great researcher, to be a person who uncovers and discovers things. You have to have a pedigree.
Yeah.
Anybody with curiosity could probably do it.
Yeah.
I happen to, given a mechanical engineering background, I happen to have a very curious mind, and I analyze things, and I come up with what's the answer to that. That's my background.
Absolutely. Now, I'm judging these questions just based on some of the comments that came on the last interview. For example, one of the comments from someone was, Stitchin was a popular author of historical science fiction novels, nothing more. If you haven't researched the Sumerians beyond Stitchin, you haven't researched the Sumerians.
Yeah, well, there are people who are naysayers who think that they want to put Sitchin down because they want to bring themselves up to their 15 minutes of glory. There's a couple of them out there that are constantly. In fact, one of your people, Graham Hancock, is in that school.
Is he? Do you think he is?
I think that.
That's interesting. Go ahead.
Have you read any of his things?
I haven't read, but I have watched a few of his videos and interviews with people like Josh Rogan and some other interviews.
In his recent book, I'll give an example, Kevin. In his recent book, he's got 2 pages where he puts Sitchin down, and I think that's just malarkey. I don't think he has a foot to stand on. I think the arguments that he uses are far-fetched. And I am not the only one who has taken Sitchin for what he is. There are many, many other scholars today who have verified what the cuneiform tablets are saying. I don't think there's any question that the story that's being told doesn't necessarily rely on Sitchin's translations. There are other people who have translated the same way.
Yeah, I think in this field there's people with massive egos, to be honest with you. Massive egos, and they think that their truth is the only truth, which is a shame. It's a shame. It really is.
Well, Sitchin, he was a biblical scholar. He read and understood the original Hebrew. He was able to translate Aramaic and many languages, and his interpretations of a language. Now, Sumerian is a very complex language. And I'll give you that you could put probably 5 different meanings on some of the words that appear in the cuneiform tablets. But his cosmology, the way he put it together, I've read the translation of the 7 creation tablets called Numa Elish. I don't know if you're familiar with that. Okay, well, just leave it at this. I believe that he's closest to the truth than anybody else. Put it that way. And it agrees to my mind. My mind has to put things together so that they are understandable. And before I came across him, there was things I didn't understand. And after I read his translations, I became knowledgeable, and I agreed. And therefore, I'm his disciple.
Absolutely. Okay. Well, thank you for clearing that up. And no matter what, you can say you'll never please everyone, but it's just interesting to hear that particular point of view as well. Okay, where are we going to start here? Just very, very briefly. I just want to know. My notes are all over the place, so do excuse me. I really want to know what is just very quickly sum up the Anunnaki first of all.
Okay. According to the translations, the story we get is that they were a space-age civilization that came to planet Earth from their own planet, which was captured into our solar system, and colonized this planet 400,000 years ago. And for 200,000 years ago, they mined our gold and transported it back to their planet to save their atmosphere. Their atmosphere had a ozone leak. They discovered that powdered gold flaked up into the ozone hole would reflect the sun and heal their atmosphere. And without their atmosphere, their civilization couldn't survive. We've got a kind of a similar problem. We've got an ozone leak, and I don't know what we're doing to try to heal it.
And now, what is the difference then between the Nephilim, giant aliens, well, giants, for example, sorry, and the Greys? I mean, there must be a difference. I mean, I hear the word Nephilim come up quite a bit. The Greys, obviously, you know, that lots of people come on this show to talk about them. Are they connected at all?
No, I don't think so. That's my opinion. The only thing that I have to go on, Kevin, is the cylinder seals and the cuneiform tablets. And when you put those together and you look at the physical evidence that's here on the planet, I've created a mosaic of information and physical facts that support the theory that the Anunnaki were giant species that came to planet Earth from their own planet Nibiru. And 200,000 years ago, they performed a experiment that created humans in their likeness.
Right. Okay. And you mentioned the seals there, the clay tablets, and the oh gosh, I can't remember what you just said there. But yeah, there was a word you used. There's the cylinder seals or something.
Yes, the cylinder seals are an invention that comes to us from the Sumerian civilization. And they are a small stone cylinder made out of hematite, which is as hard as steel. And when you engrave the negative images in this and you roll it on a wet clay, you get a positive image. And we have thousands of these in the British Museum that show the physical likeness of what the Anunnaki look like. And it's quite remarkable that we've been given this kind of printing press technology that was able to show us what they look like. It's the first evidence we've had of them actually physically being shown.
And who else has deciphered those tablets as well? I mean, if they contain, as you say, information from a civilization called the Anunnaki, who else has gone down that road?
There's half a dozen guys. Off the top of my head, I think of Schumer. There's a web page you can go to. Just put in the Google cuneiform tablets, and you'll find 4 or 5 different authors who have followed Sitchin and verified what he said.
Why? If these are okay, so what's some of the key things that are on these tablets then that really stand out to you?
Well, let me show you a picture in my book. Page 30 shows a cuneiform tablet, which is the 11th tablet of the Epic of Gilgamesh. Now, everybody who's translated this tablet, Kevin, has come to the same conclusion. It's a story of the Great Flood. And it was given to us by the Sumerians 1,000 years before the Bible. It appears in the Bible as the Noah Ark story. What I'm saying is that in the Bible, which everybody thinks is the history of us, but this is before the Bible, the story of Noah and the Ark is a ripoff of this cuneiform tablet story of the Great Flood, where the hero was a guy named Zizitaru. And the people who have translated both this tablet say that's the story that appeared in the Bible.
Okay, and what is that story telling us about the Anunnaki, though?
Well, it's the story of the saving of humanity. In other words, there was an event in history which everybody agrees happened. It was called the Great Flood. Actually, it was a tsunami. It came out of the southern sea and it covered the earth with mud, killed all the living things, killed all the trees, killed all the animals, killed all the people, except those who were saved in this ark. And this reason that the story is important is that civilization couldn't have started up again if it didn't have help. There was no way that any animal, tree, human would have survived on a muddy surface of the earth unless they got help from the outside. Okay. And the story in the 11th tablet of Gilgamesh says we're going to help them. We're going to save them. They are our offspring. I just read it again. It appears, if you want the translation of it, you go to Sitchin's book called The Lost Book of Enki.
Okay.
And the 10th tablet in the Lost Book of Enki tells the story. Yes,
yeah, but there were many of. Sorry, you said they were metallic cylinders. That they're metal cylinders. That the Sumerians.
Yes, actually stone. Hematite stone is as hard as steel.
Right. Sorry. Yep. They're hard as steel. So it's just stone. Right. Okay. Very.
Technology, Kevin, of how that imprint was put on there is still not understood by us. We don't know what it was that was able to negatively engrave in a thing this small around the outside surface negative pictures.
Yes,
that's a fascinating story in itself. But we've got thousands of these cylinder seals, and they show many pictures of Anunnaki and animals and history, stories of things that they talked about in the cuneiform tablets. It's kind of like they go together. The cuneiform tablets and the cylinder seals are a database.
Wow. And so these cylinders, you did say where they are. These cylinders are currently
in the British Museum.
British Museum, right?
Go to the British Museum, you go to the Sumerian section, and you'll see them.
Incredible. I really should go down and see them myself, being over here right now, most definitely. Okay, and the Anunnaki were tall blondes, blue eyes?
Yeah, well, they were Caucasian, 9 foot tall, blonde and blue-eyed, and extremely powerful. And apparently they lived extremely long lives because they had cured their DNA of all disease. We don't die of old age, we die of disease. And if you cure your diseases, you can live for quite a long time.
Incredible. And who were the Sumerians then?
Okay. History's first recorded civilization. They existed 350 years before the Egyptians. They are in the Tigris-Euphrates Valley called Mesopotamia. And the southern tip of Mesopotamia, where the rivers come together, Tigris-Euphrates River, was a civilization called Sumeria. And the amazing thing about them, Kevin, was that they arrived with all the firsts. They had over 100 of the first things for a civilization, and nobody can figure out and explain to us how that happened unless you accept what they said. And what they said, Kevin, was everything we have was given to us by the Anunnaki, which makes sense to me. If you want a civilization that has high-rise buildings, streets that are laid out in plots, and all the wheel, philosophy, music, writing, it had to be given to them. They didn't just arrive with it. That doesn't happen in evolution. So you got to accept that story.
Yes, absolutely. Where do you think, or does Atlantis fit into any of this, do you think?
Good question. I think Atlantis was created by Enki, because he was kind of exiled out of Eden when they divided the earth up into 4 parts. And since he lost his original home, he built a magnificent city called Atlantis. And in Plato's description of it, they call the guy that did it Poseidon. Well, that's because they were Greek. And the Greeks had their gods, and their commander god was Zeus, and his brother was Poseidon. And these are the 2 same characteristics of the original Sumerian pantheon, where you had Enlil and Enki. Enlil was the commander, and Enki was the water god.
And where had Enki come from? Was Enki an Anunnaki?
Yes, Enki was the first Anunnaki who came to Earth with 50 of his, they call themselves heroes, in a search of gold. And he was the firstborn son of the Anunnaki pantheon. They had the king, his name is Anu, and his firstborn son was Enki.
Where had the Anunnaki come from?
Okay. The story that Sitchin told us was that their planet, which is called Nibiru, was captured by our solar system, by Neptune's gravity, and was pulled into our solar system. It was a free floating planet out in space. came in clockwise and penetrated down to the sun and went into a 3,600-year elliptical orbit, and that's the home planet that this civilization comes from. So they're now captured in our solar system. They reappear every 3,600 years. Their planet reappears.
But our science is unaware of that planet being in our solar system.
Well, they're now starting to find planets outside of the Oort belt, the size of Nibiru, so that they'll catch up. We have actually, Kevin, in my first book, Adam the Missing Link, I produced a page where there was 10 civilizations that had recorded the history of Nibiru coming through and what it did. The last one to record it were the Greeks, and they called it Nemesis because of the trouble it caused.
Where does Planet X fit into this then, or does it?
The people who are looking for the 10th planet are actually looking for Nibiru. And this was already kind of classified in the cylinder seal. If you go to put in Google VA243, and you'll see a cylinder seal which shows the solar system with all the planets. It's a technology transfer.
Absolutely incredible. Mars. There are those who think there are relics on Mars. Some sort of civilization took place on Mars. Does the Anunnaki fit into Mars at all?
Yes, of course. In fact, they record the fact that was their way station. When they were shipping gold originally, when Mars still had water and Mars still had an atmosphere, they had a colony up there, and it was the way station. They'd ship the gold from Earth to Mars and then transform it and ship it to their own home planet, Nibiru. This is all recorded. Now, I think people, if they want to get a handle on this, an easy way to do it is to pick up some of my books.
Absolutely.
I've made it a picture easy. It's like a Life magazine format, and they can just understand it by looking at the pictures.
Well, your books have been currently appearing on the screen quite a number of times, and they still will do as well, because we're highlighting just how important these books are to what we're discussing right now. These are your past books coming up, and also your most current book as well. I would suggest that they go to my webpage, because the prices on those books at Amazon are like 3 times what they are on my webpage. It's right.
AdamTheMissingLink.com.
Okay.
And you'll find very friendly, it's even Kindle books there. Absolutely. Okay. Well, we're putting your website up now as well. I believe it's been going up on the screen with the books. So interesting. This is so interesting. I know we're trying to fit this in for a novice as well. There's quite a bit to this. Okay, so how long, in your understanding or in your research, were the Anunnaki here for on planet Earth? Up to about maybe 1,000 years ago. 1,000? And how long did they stay for? Oh, they were here 450,000 or 400,000 years. 400,000 years. Wow. Okay. That's hard to. Yeah. And what have they left behind? The major evidence of their existence here are things like the pyramids, Stonehenge, the landing platform at Baalbek, Angkor Wat. Nazca lines? Pardon? Nazca lines? Yes, Nazca lines. Absolutely the Nazca lines. In fact, I just was looking at that. It's kind of like a time capsule. They left us information. I was looking at the monkey. Do you remember the monkey on the Nazca lines? Oh, well, yes. If you look, extend the picture beyond, I think I put that in this book. In fact, I was just looking at it. Here. I'm showing page 69, and it's the picture of the monkey. Oh, yes. And the lines that are in front of the monkey. Yes. Most people just focus on the monkey, but the whole geoglyph with the lines, which was a message. Wow. That there's radiation going to hit this planet. And we better be prepared for the radiation. Now, the monkey has 9 fingers, and his tail represents the circular orbits, I think. This is my interpretation of our planets. Okay. Just incredible. Okay, so they've left. They've left. Well, some people think they haven't left.
Well, yes, there were the cases where in Antarctic, expeditions in Antarctic as well. We're talking many years ago here, and I can't. You may know the admiral's name. There's something happened in the Antarctic, and there was some cover-up, wasn't there?
Yes, well, I think in our first interview, Kevin, I told the story of Admiral Byrd's
That was
operation.
It. Yes. Yeah.
To the Antarctic and to try to verify what Admiral Dunas was bragging about at the Nuremberg trials. I told that whole story in our first interview. I'd refer people back to that.
Yeah.
And the Russians were revealing it.
So what evidence were you going to refer to? Sorry.
Evidence of that?
That they may still be here.
I think that the technology transfer that the Germans had in World War II may be evidence of advanced weaponry being given to them by these Anunnaki. So they had to be here in 1943, 45. And in my new book, by the way, I'm writing a fifth book.
Congratulations.
It's my autobiography. I've come to the time in my life where I think I better just sum it up before I'm gone.
Oh, don't say that.
So, well, none of us are going to live forever.
I know.
Anyway, I think that there's this guy Marduk, who was the bad seed son of Enki, who may be still hanging around, and he may be the one who's in control of that base, which I still think is in the Antarctic. I don't think we've ever destroyed it or put it out of commission.
That's very interesting what you're saying. David Icke talks about a reptilian force that's potentially didn't have our best interest at heart, whether it's still here now or not. But we're not talking about reptilians, are we, in a sense? No.
I have no evidence of that.
No. Okay. Well, even if the reptilian wasn't quite the way, but you are talking about a different race there, and that's very interesting what you've just mentioned. That there's almost like there's bits of truth in everything, and that when you put them together, there is a bigger picture sometimes. Very, very interesting.
Well, here's where I think that might have come from. This is just my speculation, Kevin. Enki was known as the feathered serpent. That was his other pseudonym, the snake, in other words. And the snake is a reptile. And if he was pictured sometimes as the feathered snake, in Egypt he was, the feathered serpent. And the Chinese have this flying thing called the dragon, and that's kind of a takeoff from there. And I think it's all associated with the fact that was what he was associated with.
So let's get this right. They came here to mine our gold because on their home planet they had a rip or a hole in their atmosphere. No, it was in their their atmosphere?
Atmosphere, yes.
Yes. Right. But then why did they stay? I mean, how much gold did they need?
Yeah, that's a very good question, Kevin. In fact, I asked Sitchin that. I said, "What do they need with all this gold?" They didn't. And then I got into atomic, monoatomic gold, which some people today are ingesting because they think it cures your DNA problems.
That's right, they do, yeah.
So he said, "Marshall, there's no evidence of that." And I said, "Well, they're starting to find things." And he says, "Well, the record speaks for itself." So my personal answer to that question, Kevin, is that they were ingesting it besides using it to close their ozone layer.
Wow.
They're part of their long life.
Yes. Have you seen the film Jupiter Ascending? Jupiter Ascending. You should really watch that. There's some tie-ins between what you're talking about, actually. Yeah, there really is. Okay. So when they came here, there was just Homo erectus present on the planet.
It's the only creature.
Now, Darwin would say that we're completely wrong to go in this direction, that there was genetic alteration, modification that happened. But it would seem to be the case, wouldn't it, that our modification happened so intensely, so quickly, that it doesn't seem like a normal path of evolution that we were on. So it is it's the truth in the records in a sense that the Anunnaki genetically altered us to become Homo sapiens.
That's what the record shows, yes.
Why?
Their story was that they needed a primitive worker to help in the mines. And everybody bought into that story. I'm not sure it's the reason, but that's what the record shows.
Could it be, if they did do it, that the Anunnaki were very consciously evolved, and this was more of a spiritual mission than what we even understand currently in the way that the research has taken us right now?
That's very possible, Kevin. I mean, I'm a reporter. I don't, put my own spin on it. I just tell you what's there and what everybody else says is there, and then I try to fit it together in my own mind so it makes sense to me.
If they were that abhorrent to us, in a sense, the way that they treat us to make us to be a slave force, then why have they not come back to destroy us now? Now, it just seems to me that even if they were 100 years ahead of us at that time, they would even, they would have the technology to get rid of us now, and they haven't. They've let us be. So it really points to me that maybe this was more of a consciousness. There was something bigger. There's a bigger picture that we're not getting here. It wasn't so negative. That's what I'm saying.
Well, my interpretation to that, Kevin, is that they saved us once from the flood. In other words, they have a deity. According to the records, their deity is called the Creator of All.
Wow.
And a message came from the Creator of All that their destiny, Anunnaki's destiny, was to come to planet Earth to create humanity, and humanity's destiny was to inherit the planet and take care of it. Well, some of that's happened, some of it hasn't. I believe that if they saved us once because their deity told them to, that if we get to the point where we're about to annihilate each other, they may step in and save us again.
Well, then who's going to the nuclear sites and disarming them? That's been happening, hasn't it? Where there's been unidentified objects over nuclear plants.
Yes, flown over some of our silos, and they've deactivated the silos. There's been records of that. And so I think that it's potentially possible. I'm not a guy who likes to make prophecies, but I just have my own personal belief is that they will save us from ourselves.
Where does the hybrid program fit into the Anunnaki as well, do you think? Because there are those... There's lots of these, actually, researchers coming forward to talk about this hybrid program that's taking place, and if so, why?
To me, it's inevitable. I think if that's where we came from, why shouldn't we continue to improve ourselves if we can, if it's possible to create babies that are better equipped to live longer and do better things? I think maybe it's in our ability to do. We should do it. That's my own personal belief. Well,
absolutely. I mean, there are those that look at the hybrid program that approach it from its facts, which it all seems so very negative, but there are others who approach it from the sense point of view where actually, these hybrids are coming into this planet to help it consciously evolve, because that's what we need to be doing, because we're not doing it very well through religion.
That's right. I agree with you on that. Yeah, absolutely.
And there are those who feel and believe that they are hybrids and that they've come here for that special reason. It's the more and more that people they interview in the UFO field, the more it's going into the consciousness field.
Yes.
And that's a shift that's happened.
I have a daughter, Kevin, Jen Klarfeld. She lives in Santa Fe, New Mexico.
Right.
She's a certified hypnotherapist. She does past life regressions. And she was a student of Dolores Cannon. In fact, she was very close to Dolores. And I know you have a connection there. But she is more into that than I am. I'm still a tire kicker. I'm the old school engineer who wants the facts. And I have to deal with what I see and feel.
Absolutely, of course, and I'm not here trying to. I'm just presenting the facts as what's come across to me from the bigger majority of researchers. There's something more to this than what we understand.
I agree. I agree. And I'm not an expert in that field, so I don't want to speak about it.
No, you're sticking with the facts that you know, and what you know is so interesting. It really, really is your work.
Thank you.
But yeah, it's there must be more than one race engaging, in one species engaging with planet Earth, because there's a lot of different cases out there with different types of beings.
I've heard about that. Yeah, I haven't seen it, and nobody's proved it to me yet.
No, but
my daughter talks about the Palladians and talks about these other.
yes,
She's in contact. She understands that, and I love my daughter, but I need to have it proven to me physically.
yes, and that's what Stitchin's work does, and that's the type of people you're attracting, because you're helping those people who need that, and actually, do you know what? It's so very interesting to look at it from that perspective as well, because I think what you do for Stitchin's work is you make it a bit easier to understand. I'm not taking anything away from Stitchin's work. I've read some of his books, but they are kind of complicated.
They are, and I told him that. I said, and I asked for permission to do that first book, and he said, Marcia, you can publish anything I've produced, as long as you say with permission from Zachariah Sitchin. I said, absolutely. So the stuff in the book that is his, I put that little caveat on there, with permission by Zachariah Sitchin. But he was a very in-depth thinker, Kevin. I mean, his analysis of the things he did and the way he took the wars. If you take the history in the Bible of all the battles, and he correlated them to the history of the Anunnaki, and it's just amazing how he put that together.
That's just incredible, isn't it? It's absolutely incredible. Yeah, it really. It does his daughter, Zachariah's daughter, promote his work as well still?
Janet Sitchin, I'm not sure she's his daughter. You think she's his niece?
Sorry, right, yes, niece. Sorry, it could be, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
Janet
Sitchin. Yeah, I think she's still available.
Yes, she's at the helm there, and she's keeping it going. And there are a few others like myself. In fact, I'm going to be appearing at Joshua Tree, the Contact in the Desert, this June 3rd through the 6th.
Great conference.
And my lecture will be on the Sitchin theory.
Wonderful. Well, you're just the man for it as well. Yes, and I suppose you're making discoveries all the time in the work, which is just fantastic.
I have made a lot of discoveries, and the one thing that I'm very proud of is my washboard gold mining theory, which I discovered after Sitchin passed. And I've expanded on it in the last book, Mysteries of Alien Technology. I put together the collection system using sheep pelts. Sheepskin is a terrific collection product to filter out placer gold from water. And there's many rivers around the world that are stripping gold from the mines and carrying placer water in it, and you could collect it by putting sheepskins in it.
Do you think that was part of the purpose for the Great Pyramid?
Well, yeah. In fact, my theory of washboard gold mining reversed back into the interior of the Great Pyramid. It was designed, Kevin, it's amazing. Every passage, every tunnel and passage in the Great Pyramid is watertight. And I said they wouldn't have gone to the trouble of making that all watertight unless there was a use for it. And as a result, I came up with called the hydraulic pulse pump, which brings the water down and shoots it up into the Grand Gallery. And the Grand Gallery is a cobalt ceiling, which is an upside-down washboard. And that was a gold collection. And the smoking gun is the stone box in the King's Chamber, which is heavily damaged on all its outside edges. And what I theorized was that water got into the King's Chamber, it floated that box, and it bounced around, pushing down on the water, until one corner got so heavily damaged that the water filled in it and it sunk. And that was the end of that gold collection process. But the interior, original design, I believe, was a washboard gold mine. The Nile River, which runs right by that pyramid, is filled with Nubian gold, placer gold. Well, after the Great Flood, they were mining gold in Southeast Africa, and deep shaft mines. They all got filled up with mud. So it ended that mining process. They had to figure out another way, and they looked around and they saw all this placer gold in all the water, and they decided to collect it. So they built step pyramids like Chichen Itza, and that was a gold collection device. And they built Planeke, Angkor Wat. I've analyzed in the third book, The Anunnaki Were Here, many of the washboard gold mining sites that they built. And I believe that verifies. In the last book, I
Yes.
closed the loop on that by showing the collection system was the sheepskins.
Wow, wow, wow. Oh yes, because there's something on your website as well. In that, yes, there is the sheepskin. There's some device that you've got on there.
Oh yeah, I invented a sled called the Golden Fleece sled. I got the signal came from the statue of Medea holding up. Here, it's on the cover of my book in this corner here.
There it
She's
is.
holding
Yep.
up the golden fleece, and there's a legend of Jason and the golden fleece. And what it was a sheepskin filled with gold. And the way it got that way is they put it in the water and it collected the gold. So one thing led to another, and I came to the conclusion that, and I'm offering to the public on my webpage, as you so graciously mentioned, my product, which is called the Golden Fleece Sled, which you can put in a placer stream and collect your own gold.
Now I've had a guy, I don't know if you know this chap, a guy called Stephen Myers on, and he talked about the Great Pyramid was a water pump.
Yes.
And it's and he's come up with this really fascinating way that they drain the Nile. Well, not drain, but they siphon the Nile water off to get in, using a ramp technology to get into the pyramid. But yeah, he said it was also used for agriculture to feed water back into Egypt to produce food, basically.
There were multiple purpose designs.
Right.
That's the
right.
beautiful part about this advanced technology that they had. They could do multiple things, and later on, after its original design, it could have been converted into a power plant. I have no quarrel with that.
That's a very interesting answer. That is very interesting. And just going back to two things I didn't cover before as well. We know we talked about that they came here to genetically alter us to become what we are now. So when the Bible talks about Adam, that was the son. Well, that was the Adam and Eve. They were the descendants of the Anunnaki. Then genetically altered.
Yes. Adam was the first successful experiment. Actually, in the cuneiform tablets, they call him Adamu, Adamu, first person. And there's a cylinder seal depicting that.
Isn't that amazing? There's a cylinder seal there. What would historians of the Bible have to say about that? I'm sure they'd be able to twist it to their own way of understanding. But
well,
yeah,
I think the people who wrote the Bible got their information from the cuneiform tablets, but they didn't understand the technology, so they had to kind of modify the stories to fit what they understood.
Right. Okay.
For instance, the 2x2, you couldn't have put all those animals in a boat. There's no way. There wouldn't be any food for them when they got out because the earth was covered with mud. So I had to figure out, where'd that story come from? And in the cuneiform tablets, it says that they went around and they collected the DNA of all the species, and they put it in a golden box, and they put the box on the ark so that they could reconstruct everything after from the DNA.
Absolutely.
Well, the biblical authors didn't understand that.
No.
So 2x2, that's where it came from. But it's impossible. You think about it.
Oh, of course, absolutely. And look, I've just got to mention that the religion, in a sense. Do you think Anunnaki had anything to do with some of the major religions in good or bad ways?
Yes, I think they were the perpetrators of those religions. I think that Yahweh, the Hebrew God, was Enlil. I think Sitchin agreed with that too.
Why do you think they wanted to create religion for man?
Control and jealousy. They, like in the Ten Commandments, thou shalt have no other God but me. Well, there were a bunch of gods running around. they were not gods with a capital G, they were small g gods. And Enlil wanted his clan separate from the Enki clan. And so therefore, I believe part of the motivation, the other motivation was to control all these people. It's hard for a small, powerful group to control the masses unless you have some kind of a system. As we see, the system of religion is a very controlling system.
That's fascinating what you were just saying there about the religions as well. So yeah, okay. Really, really interesting about that whole control situation as well. I see that all the time, so I do agree with you there completely. Now, going to your latest book as well, there's some fantastic we've spoke about some of the structures that you cover in there as well, like Stonehenge, the Gaza Pyramid, but you also cover places like research in India that you've done for structures in India, Peru, Mexico, Greece. What were some of the most interesting discoveries you made in your latest book as well?
I think it was the Greek Parthenon and the Roman Pantheon. Those two structures were remarkable, and as I analyzed them and took them apart, I discovered there was actually technology that was impossible to understand. For instance, Nova did a spectacular program on the Parthenon in Greece, and they took it apart, put it back together, and they found out there were 70,000 individual parts to it, no two of them alike. And I can't understand how a construction engineer would put a building up with nothing the same. And there was no straight lines in it. They had curves in it. And I show pictures of this in my book. And it was amazing to me how this project went forward. Who the hell was able to design and build a building with no straight lines in it, with a turtle base where everything was slightly off, and all the parts were different, and put it together. And then when I got to the Roman Pantheon, it was the 142-foot dome built out of unreinforced concrete. And that was amazing. But the subsurface of that was that there was a floating foundation underneath it, Kevin, that the base actually went below the surface to support this during earthquakes. And I went further to the Roman Colosseum, and I found that the Colosseum was built on a lake bed.
Wow.
And the lake bed was near Nero's lake. They drained it, and there was a floating foundation built under the Colosseum. It was a donut-shaped, 40-foot deep, 110-foot diameter that supported this so that during earthquakes it wouldn't fall down. Now, tell me 2,000 years ago, Kevin, who understood floating foundations, and also Anger Watts on a floating foundation. And this technology blew me away, and I published in the book what I thought were these advanced ideas of how to survive earthquakes, which I think the Japanese who gifted us with floating foundations about 70 years ago, when they discovered how to do it. But here, 2,000 years ago, we have some advanced guys figuring out how to build buildings that'll last 2,000 years.
Oh, it's amazing. It's just incredible, isn't it? Yeah, absolutely incredible. And even in France and Russia, you've made discoveries as well.
Yes, there's a bridge called the Pont de Garde. It crosses the Gard River. It was a Roman aqueduct that was feeding water down to Nimes, which is a colony. And it's made out of stones, millions and millions of cut stones that are put together without any mortar. It's like if you took building blocks when you were a kid, you could build them so high and that would fall down. Well, here's a bridge with arches and 3 tiers, and all the stones are cut and fit and held together by friction and gravity. Now, the important thing is that the survivability of this design, every bridge on that river has been wiped out by floods. And for 2,000 years, this bridge has stood there. And then now the Romans claim that they built it, but I don't think so.
No, I don't think so.
This technology way beyond what the Romans had.
You know, I know we're dialing all over the place here, but just going back to what we were saying about Darwin, in a sense, you know, I've in our lifetime and previously documented cases as well, you know, there's never been that ape, or, you know, talking in a sense, and becoming conscious in to the point where we are. Science would say that, science would say that evolution maybe was in itself a bit of a freak, and it just takes one to happen, and that's it. Here we are now. But we're never going to see that in our lifetime, are we?
See, you have to think outside the box. And these scientists are unwilling to acknowledge that perhaps there was an advanced space age civilization that came here and did all these things. They aren't to that point yet.
But that's not to say that the advanced space age civilization, that they never went through something that as Darwin's theory predicts. I mean, maybe their evolution, maybe they were not seeded by someone else. Maybe they took the long road.
We don't know. Excuse me.
No.
I think I've had it with my voice, Kevin.
No, absolutely. Okay. Well, look, I just want to say, as a final message to the audience as well, what would you say is the most important message of your work?
That you must examine the facts, examine everything you can, the written and the physical evidence, and then make up your own mind of whether this story has validity. I have come to the conclusion that with the physical evidence I found in the stories that I've read, it's a true story. It needs to be told. And people need to make up their own mind. I can't preach to people what they should understand, but they need to take the facts and look at them collectively, connect the dots. It's the only answer you can come up with.
Well, Marshall Klarfeld, thank you so much for joining us today.
Well, thank you, Kevin. It's very interesting, and good luck to you in your continued career.
Well, we've come to an end on tonight's show. Don't forget that you can listen and watch all our past interviews on the More Show's official YouTube channel. Remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel for new daily shows. You may also find out more on all past and upcoming guests on the show via themoreshow.co.uk, and do like us on Facebook and Twitter for the latest updates. So until next time, be safe.